Welcome everyone to Know Your Finances, a basic financial workshop for international students. So this is actually our first workshop for international students at Smart About Money. My name is Van. I'm a peer financial coach at Smart About Money. And so if you're here today, maybe you have some concerns or questions you want to ask about finances, maybe you just want to learn more, and we're here to help. So the workshop is basically we'll have two components. The first one is the presentation. So I'm just going to go through the basic components of some of the topics that we selected. It's very basics. You can always speak up or send the chat and I'll answer any questions, but we also have a Q&A section afterwards. So it's about 15 minutes. You can stay here and ask questions with me. Yes, and so those are the two components of today's workshop. As people are still coming in, so I hope I can monitor that. Yes, so some things about us. We are Smart About Money. If you have not heard about us, we are a peer financial program here at UMass Amherst. And so we're here to help you become smart about money by giving you the tools to manage your financial life. So this year we offer one-on-one peer financial coaching. You can schedule an appointment with us through Navigate. If I remember correctly, it's under student success, financial success, and then you can select peer financial coaching and you'll be able to select an appointment from Monday to Friday. So it's very convenient. We also have presentations. So that's mostly like seminars and classes, request presentations, and we'll come there and we'll give a presentation about requested topics and workshops. So this one is our second workshops in this semester. Our first workshop is for first gen students, and this one is for international students. So yes, so if you see in the chat, Sarah's put the link that you can schedule an appointment with us. Please go ahead. We'll have also all information in sign-in sheet and also like the handouts that you will receive after the workshop. Yes, and this will offer both virtual and in-person advising and group presentations. So, COVID is kind of hard for many of us. So if you're at home, if you still have questions, you can always schedule an appointment and we'll go over everything through Zoom. And also, if you prefer in person, we'll have an office at Goodell. So yes, it's very convenient. If you're like interested, or if you just want to know more about like managing your finances and money matters, you can follow us on social media. So we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or schedule an appointment with us to find out more. Yes, and so this is kind of bad news, but we supposed to have Pamela as a representative from the International Programs Office with us today, and she'll run the Q&A section with me to answer the questions that you all have. But unfortunately, she couldn't make it today, but no worries. Like if you have any questions and like I cannot like answer or is directed through like to the International Programs Office, you can always put it in or ask me, and then I will send all the questions to her, and hopefully we'll get back to you on like the specific answers. So yes, so feel free to ask any questions, even not like financially related. We can always ask Pamela afterwards. Okay, so that leads us to the main outcomes for today's workshop. So in today's workshop, we're going to go through the basic components of budgeting and smart goal setting. Next up is scholarships. So we'll go through some scholarship options that international students are available or are eligible for and how you can pursue them. Next up, we will have some basic foundational knowledge about banking and credit. So it's very basic, but you feel free to ask more questions if you have about like any of those topics. Lastly, we'll point you to some resources that you can access at UMass and beyond to help you address your concerns surrounding your finances. And once in a while, we'll throw in some financial facts that hopefully will be helpful to you. And here comes the first one. So first financial fact is the New York Times offers a free subscription to every UMass student. So, maybe the library will inform you this as you enter college. But yeah, by all means, if you want to stay informed for free or you have an assignment and you have to take an article online, you can always sign up for a New York Times account using your student email at this link. It's very convenient, I would say. It's like they send you like every week, they send you like a newsletter that you can just read the summary of that week. So that's way. Yes. So our first topic again is budgeting. So as international students, I guess it's very different about why or like when is the good time that you have to know about finances. And our general recommendation is as soon as possible. Why? Because if your first year or this is like your first time on campus because of COVID, you might have a lot of decisions and questions, concerns that you have to deal with. Like, okay, what bank should you use? How do you go about scholarships and like payment options for college? How do you go about off-campus housing? Would it be harder for international students? And many of the decisions will affect you in the long run. So you want to make it right from the beginning. And so it's very essential to have the very basic knowledge of finances right from the beginning so that you can be confident and independent in managing your finances. And so that's why we're here today. So to help you know more about some of the basic things that you should know as international students, and also help you to prepare to handling your own finances. And with that said, let's jump right into budget. So budget is creating a plan for spending your money. So within a budget, we often have two main components, which are income, the money that you make, and expenses, the money that you spend. So I know that for international students, we don't really have a wide range of income or expenses. Like if your first year, maybe your expenses is mostly just room and board and tuition and maybe food, which would probably be paid at the beginning of the semester. But budgeting still promotes a sense of financial independence that prepares you for off-campus housing or life after college. So it's very important that if you practice budgeting, right, like when you are not like so engaged in spending your money or like making money, it will prepares you for off-campus housing where you actually have to budget your income and expenses, or if you decide to stay for grad schools, or if you wanted to work in the US, like these basic steps at first would be very important. And so here are some examples of things that can go into your budget. So for income, we have employment, if you have an on-campus employment or an internship off campus. You also have allowance if your family will give money to you monthly or weekly to support your finances. You can also have savings interest going to your income. So this is mainly from your bank account. Sometimes you win a reward from UMass, or it's your birthday and you get money from friends and family. And of course, you may think of other examples that can go into your income. For expenses, we have tuition, which is, you hear it every semester, is for international student is very hefty. This is what you have to pay to go to UMass. If you're living on campus, you have room and board into your expenses. Off campus, you may also have to pay separately for food, entertainment, or transportation if you're planning to go somewhere further away from Amherst, where like free bus is not available. And of course, you can think of other examples that goes into your expenses. Okay, so the next topic / activity that we're gonna do is spending habits. So this is a very fun activity for me because it's kind of like identifying your personality type. So please go ahead and just like see if you can match yourself into any of these types of spenders or purchases. So the first one we have is status. So status is that if you're a status spender, you are spending your money into the latest trend, in like the latest iPhone or the latest, I don't know, clothing, just to brush up your status and appearance. Yes, and so this might be costly for many people, but that's a spender type. Selfless type is when you spend money generously, not exactly for yourself, but for others. So you're spending to buy presents for others. Maybe you want to treat them for dinners. And so if that's like a majority of your expenses, you can identify with a selfless type. The security spender is me. This is the type that just like to make or keep money, but doesn't like to spend money. And although it sounds very secure, like, okay, like you're not spending, how can you be in danger? It's not very healthy. Like it's not going to work towards a healthy spending habits because you're not actually spending any money. You're just keeping it. And yes, our next type is arguably the most beneficial type of spender is the goal-oriented. So every expenses that you make will go towards an ultimate financial goal. So, well, although it might like it sounds beneficial, sometimes your goal can be a little bit off or it's not very smart, which is what we're gonna go through in the later slides. The goal, your financial goal should be able to reflect what you need and your like what you can do. And yes, so it's always depends on the goal that you're setting yourself into. The emotional type is when you spend money because you are feeling something. So, okay, so if you're feeling super happy, you want to spend. If you're feeling super bad and you just want to make yourself feel better, you can spend on like a cake or like coffee or just like a night out with friends. That's the emotional type. Spontaneous type is when you spend money unpredictably. So you're spending because who knows what, like maybe you're feeling tired and you just want to spend a little, or just you see something on sale and you want to spend it. That's spontaneous. And so that's all we have for the spender type. So for now, if you already identify yourself with one of the spender types, that's awesome. But you may also notice that sometimes you're like kind of like this spender type, but sometimes you're like that spender type. And that's totally okay. You can identify with one, with multiple, or with none. Like you don't really see yourself in this list. And that's totally okay too. The important thing is that recognizing your spending habits can save you money and support you when creating a realistic budget. So for example, for me, a security type, I know that is very dangerous for me because I'm not spending that much. What if I have to spend? Like, how would I do about it? So I would just like set aside like an amount of money to spend each month on something I like or something that I feel necessary to spend. And just making that habit can help me just like practicing my spending habits. Or if you're like emotional type and you're like know that you have the risk to spend a lot when you're feeling like not normal, like too happy or too sad, you might want to set a specific budget for that and like stop yourself when you run out of that budget. So yes, identify your spender type, very sufficient and helpful. Okay, so our next stop is a very important part of budgeting is emergency fund. So emergency fund is money stashed away in case of unexpected expenses. Okay, money, cool. Unexpected, what is that? So is okay, so if you are like feeling pretty drowsy in the morning and you just want to spend on a coffee, is that unexpected? Well, yeah, literally, but not in this sense. Unexpected for us means that is unexpected and costly. So, for example, like your computer like broke down, like your bike broke down, or you come down with a fever, that's unexpected and costly. And that is when emergency funds come in handy. So it's basically a basic, like a budgeting seatbelt. So you never know when you're gonna need it, but it's always there and it's very necessary for just like protecting you from those risky situations. And so our recommended amount is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And of course, this varies based on your personal circumstances. It might be like more or less depending on your preference, but this is the general amounts that we always tell students to make. And so how do you go about building an emergency fund? So you can set aside an amount, maybe weekly or monthly. So maybe like $50 a month, you'll set aside, and that will go into your emergency fund. And I mean, like this is like a little bit every day, and by the time you notice it, you will have like a complete emergency fund just right there waiting for you to, well, that's kind of weird, but like it will be there in case of any unexpected expenses. And until this point, for international students, you may think, okay, so I really have my family, like taking care of all the emergency for me. Like, why do I need an emergency fund? And that's awesome if you have like a family out there to help you. But it's very important if you want to build like a financial independence, that you build an emergency fund for your own. And it's also important if you cannot readily access loans or credit cards, because we are not eligible for many of the federal loans, which we'll talk about later, and also credit cards. That's like a hard thing for us. Yes, so Manglin just mentioned in the chat that she puts the tips inside your jar, and that's awesome. It just like is so easy to just like put aside a little bit when you have something that you don't really necessarily using. And so it's like a very healthy or helpful practice to make or build an emergency fund. Okay, so yes, so okay, so emergency funds, you are like self-sufficient, but what if you're not? What if like you want to be financially independent, you don't want to rely on your parents, but you also don't have any options, like you don't have income. So at UMass offer like a lot of emergency support for students. So Dean of Students Office, you may have heard the name before. They are an excellent office for general students concerns, but they are specialized in emergency support for students. So as international students, we can apply for a variety of support from the Deans of Students Office. So the first one that they offer is microgrant. So this will offer up to $500 for emergencies. So if you go to this Dean of Students website, you can apply for this microgrant by filling out an application, and depends on your case, they will award you up to $500. Let me check the chat for a little. Oh yeah. Okay. So yes, so the next one is the same amount, but this time it's a short-term loan program. So it's a loan. So you're taking that out to pay something, and as per loans, you have to pay that back. So repayment normally occur like around a month, because that is called short-term. And this is dispersed, and you have to make the repayment through the bursar's office. So again, if you come to the Dean of Students office, they have a wide range of like thing that you can do to apply for emergency support, and this is one of the options. They also have a more casual one called the student care supply clauses. So this is just for personal care supplies like shampoo or toothbrush, or other stuff that you do for personal care. And so you have these clauses. It's very accessible. You can just come and state your case, and they will give you whatever supplies that you need. So it's very convenient if you're finding yourself in a tight spot. Please check this out. So the last two, the Student Care and Emergency Response Fund and the Angel Fund, is our funds. So they are funds made available for students. To my knowledge, you cannot directly apply for these funds, but the first one, the Student Care and Emergency Response Fund, is actually going into the microgrants that you can apply for. And it's for emergency response. If you have emergency, it will support you. If you are like needing more than just what microgrants can offer, you can always contact Dean of Students Office, and they will like give you the right advice. And the Angel Fund is very specifically towards international students. So this is for students who are impacted from federal immigration policy, and it will cover a lot of expenses like housing, counseling, food, and transportation needs. And yeah, so like many of you, if you are like here like 2 years ago, you noticed that how Donald Trump has like a policy that everyone that's taking all online classes is illegal to stay. So like we're illegal if we just take online classes, and many of like international students just like cannot find a way to stay or like survive in the US. So this angel fund is specific for those circumstances. So yes, there are many resources available at UMass. If you're having any concerns, you can come to us, Dean of Students Office, or the IPO will have like a list of resources as well at the end. So yeah, please check your options out. Okay. Right. So as I mentioned before, goal setting. So let's try to put what we've learned so far into actually setting a smart financial goals. So international students, our goal can be just as casual, like buying a computer or like buying a bike. You can also set some goals for the summer if you want to go somewhere. And this is where we have very specific criteria for goal setting. So first stop is specific. So your goal should be well defined. So if you want to test this, you can try to answer the 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, and why, while setting your goal. Yeah. Measurable means your goal should be, you should be able to measure like progress towards like pursuing your goal. It can be like, okay, if you're like making good progress, are you like straying away? Are you like having difficulties in pursuing your goals? Attainable means your goal should be within your personal capacity. So you should be able to attain the goal. And a way that you can figure this out is you can ask like other students or your peers, your financial advisor. You can ask us, and we'll talk through like if the goal is attainable for you. The next stop is realistic. So your goal should be within your personal need. So do you actually need to pursue the goal, or is it just like an impulsive thing that you decide like at the spur of the moment? So the goal should be realistic and suits your financial need and be beneficial for you in the long run. And last stop is timing. So your goal should be able to have a time deadline, so you know if you're making good progress, and it just like feels very on track if you have a time frame that you can measure your progress into. Okay, so that's it for the budget topic, and many of you, I hope, will have like somewhat the graphs on it. But if you're like feeling totally overwhelmed or like you don't know where to start, to have just the right solution for you. So we suggest using a budgeting app. So Mint is what we usually tell students to try to use because it's free and it's very easy to navigate. It's very intuitive for me, just like putting your bank information in, and then it will just show you like what you should do, like budgeting. You can track your income and expenses and bills, and you can actually set like specific budgets for categories like groceries, entertainment like Netflix and Spotify. And yeah, so there are a variety of things that you can do within the Mint budgeting app. And so we'll also send you like a Mint guidelines that you can always follow in your own free time if you're interested. But I noticed that many of us is like some of you may find it's uncomfortable just like sharing your bank information in like a budgeting app. And so worry not, because many banks also offer free budgeting tools. So if you're using a bank, please check out what they offer. So I know that Bank of America also have a budgeting tool. I'm using it as well, just like a comparison, but Mint is just like user friendly. So I would suggest checking that out first. All right. Thank you, Min for noticing us. And yes, we'll send the recording your way. So, okay, so our next stop is a very interesting one, scholarships. And our next fact is is kind of unfortunate one. actually, because as you may know, international students are not eligible for most financial aid, including grants, work study, and federal student loans. So if you are like wandering around financial aid website, or you just like figure out what options you can do to pay for your college, you come across these things. And it's good to know that international students are normally not available for most like federal aid. However, there are scholarships options available for international students, which is the topic we're going through now. Okay, let me check the time. Okay, right. So scholarships. International students are eligible for a wide range of scholarships offered at UMass and other federal agencies. So if you apply to UMass, you may have come across these terms: chancellors, directors, or dean's awards are admission scholarships. So they are automatically applied when you apply to UMass, and the amount is totally merit-based. So it will base on your GPA, your academic performance, and it is renewable up to 4 years. So when you're awarded these scholarships, you're not going to be do not have to worry about like renewing these, because it's automatically renewed up to 4 years. It's a great deal, but please keep in mind that change in academic or residency status can affect your eligibility. So academic status, if you are switch to part-time student, if your GPA is falling below 2.0, or if you're missing a semester, those can affect your eligibility for these scholarships. Or if you're switching from an international status to like US citizenship, that can also affect your eligibility status. Okay, so our next scholarships is for international students. So this is for international students, and it's the Barbara B. Byrne Memorial Scholarship. And yes, so this is actually from the International Programs Office, the IPO, and the amount is $1,000. So who is eligible for this scholarship? So I talked to Pamela, who is the person that's going to consider all the application for the scholarship. And although she said that junior and senior is like the top priority in considering for the scholarship, if you're like freshman or sophomore, you are free to apply for this scholarship as well. And the only additional thing you need to be is a non-immigrant visa status, like an F1 or a J1. And so to apply for the scholarship, you have to fill out a form. You need a letter of recommendation from your academic advisor, and you have to write up one essay. So this essay is very like open-ended. So it's just asks you if you have any ideas, or if like you have done anything to contribute to the internationalization of UMass. So if you're doing anything for the international community, you can always try to apply for the scholarship. If not, your ideas will be sufficient enough. And so the application is actually open in spring semester next year. So if you're interested, please check out the IPO website for the specific deadlines. Okay, so next up we have very general websites for scholarships. So the first stop is Scholarship Search Board. So this is the link to the search board. I will also like send you out the link after the workshop, but keep in mind that if you are using the search board, you should put no for FAFSA when they have criteria, and in the FAFSA column, you put no, and when you search up for like the scholarships, you should search for nothing in the residency status column. So because if they put anything in there like US citizen or like Massachusetts, you're not eligible for those. Okay, so our next stop is very general and also college specific, called Academic Works. So this website, if you come in here, you're asked to fill out like a application, like it's like a thing that you have to fill out your information and also your college information, and will automatically like suggest you like the scholarships that you're eligible for. So it's very general, and also if your college has like specific scholarships, you can also find out in Academic Works. And our last stop is like once like some college also offer like their own scholarships, so it's worth checking out the individual websites so that you know that maybe they offer something out of academic works as well. Okay, and oops, our last stop, and this should also be your first stop as well, is the financial aid website. So just financial aid, coming to the website, you can also find out about international students and what you're eligible for. Those have like a wide range of scholarships that you can consider applying for. And also external websites you can look out for, like edupass.org, or websites that international students can apply for scholarships. So check like it's in your best interest to check your website out. Okay, so our last topic is about banking. So, and also our last financial fact is most banks around UMass offer no-fee student bank accounts that international students can use to their advantage. So that's a great news. And so please, if you're interested, explore and research your banking options to find out which bank works best for you. Okay, with that said, we'll go through some basics of banking in case you are you're still considering creating a bank account. Okay, so first off is reasons. So why should international students have a bank account? So the first one is the most intuitive one as well, is to secure your money. So okay, so if you're here, you might carrying like money around just to like pay for your tuition or like pay for your food and everyday activities. So just having a bank account in the US, we're just securing your money and you don't have to worry about any, like if you're like carrying cash, you don't have to worry about like putting them in a safe place. The bank will do it all for you. And also, as international students, paying and receiving funds can be a little bit inconvenient because it takes days for international wire transfer to actually come through to the US. And if you're like paying for tuition, that might be very inconvenient because like it's a tight deadline and it takes days for it to process your money. Having a bank account in the US will just do that within a day, and you don't have to worry about any fees from international transaction and currency exchange either. So US use Flywire, and every international exchange like transfer that you make, they'll charge you like 2 to 5%, and also an intermediary fee of $25 to $50 per transaction, and that's hefty. So if you want to avoid all that, creating a bank account in the US will solve that problem. And also, having a bank account means you can promote financial independence. So you're managing your own finances now. Maybe you have like problems. Maybe you're feeling super independent in your financial life. And that's what the bank, having a bank account is all about. And also, it allows credit building in the US. So we won't go through too much into credit building in this workshop, but if you're interested, we also have a blog post at SAM that you can check out about like international credit building in the US. Okay, so now you know why you should like create a bank account. What should you consider in like finding out the options? So okay, so the first thing is fees. So there are fees to open a bank account. I know most student bank account, they don't charge a fee, but it's worth checking out the details. And also maintenance fees. So they have like yearly maintenance fee or like monthly ones. And for international students, we can also find out if they have fees for international transaction, how long would it normally take for the transaction to come through. Also ATM and basic transaction, this is not normally a concern, but in case they do charge a fee, if you like drawing out cash from like other banks' ATM, you might want to also check that. Okay, the next thing to consider is services. So I know some banks offer just online service. Some banks offer in person and online as well. So it's because like I know Bank of America, they offer in person, but they also have an app that you can use, and that's like a very good offer because in person sometimes we don't have the opportunity to just go somewhere further to just get to the bank. So online thing is like a service and we should consider. Also overdraft. So if you've heard this term before, it might sound weird, but it's simply just withdrawing more money than you actually have in your bank account. So this is normally a problem of like forgetting that you actually have less than you are intending to spend, and that's totally okay. But some banks actually allowing that transaction to come through, and they will charge you a fee, and that's like a very big fee for like the transaction that you're making. And some might just like decline the transaction and just don't charge any fee at all. So it's very like intuitive, but it's also very costly to just like doing these like things. So please check out if they have like overdraft protections or fees in this service. And also interest rates. So, I mean, we don't really get a lot of money from interest rates as international students, but if that's like a thing that we can always benefit from, we can always check that out also. Next up is location. So international students, we cannot really just go super far to just go to a bank again because the bus is free, but it's only go to like certain points. So it's worth to know if your bank is relatively accessible, and also like the ATMs, like are they accessible? Can you just like casually like getting cash out, or you have to travel to do that? Okay, so I guess the kind of last thing to consider if your bank is insured by FDIC. So this is the thing that whenever you search up a bank, it'll just appear right like underneath the information. It's very important because this ensures that your money is protected when the bank fails, and you are automatically insured up to $250,000. So yes, so that's like your protection, and it's your right to know if your bank is FDIC insured. And although it's very unlikely that banks like actually fails, like we all see what happened when COVID comes and everything is kind of like chaotic. And so you can save a lot of like those concerns by just choosing a bank that is FDIC insured. And so last but not least, know your financial goals and priorities helps you immensely in choosing the right bank. So international students will see if we actually have a reliable income, like on-campus employment, or if we do like a lot of international transactions, if the bank support that, or if you want to consider loans, if bank actually offer international loans. So yes. Okay, so this is just like a brief overview of credit union. You may have heard about credit unions before. So what are they? So they are, I guess we can call them bank equivalent because they have the exact features of banks. But there are some basic differences that you should know is that they're not for profit, so you can expect like a higher interest rates in their offers. As different to banks which are for profit, so low interest rates. And they are owned by members, they're community based, and the earnings are returned to the members. So if you are applied for like a bank account in a credit union, you are a member and you can practically say own that union, and earnings are always returned to the members. And if you're worried about if that's like not like as insured as banks, worry not, because they are also insured up to $250,000, but by a different agency called the NCUA. So UMass actually offer a credit union that international students can always apply for. It's called UMass 5. So they offer like international students, we can make like bank accounts. They have a bike fund that we can take out to buy a bike and we can pay that back later. But there are a wide range of like services offered at UMass 5. So it's very accessible also. You can come to the office. I think it's in the student union, come to them and you can always talk about your banking concerns and like work things through with UMass 5. So they are an excellent service at UMass. Okay, so with all things considered, now you know like why you have to create a bank account and like where you should look for a bank account. Let's go to create a bank account. So it's worth to understand your options before you actually go to the bank and create one. So normally we will be offered two options, that to create a checking account and a savings account. And just like a general recommendation, we can use create both. For checking accounts is for frequent transactions. So if you see people just like swipe, and then like the transactions completed, is the checking account doing that. For savings account is more like securing your money, so it has limits on like how many times you can take money out, but it's very secured. If you have like a big sum of money that you want to pay for tuition, putting it in your savings account before or like after the deadline, like if you have like leftover money, is very secured. So yes, and so creating a bank account is kind of dependent on like our visa status, because if your visa status is like close to like the expiration deadline, I know like many visas kind of just like a 1 year deadline. So if you're like close to that, you might want to just create your bank account as soon as you are confident that you want to, because that might affect like if you're like admitted to like a bank account. And so what you should bring to the bank is a passport, your student visa, your student card, also known as a U card, your proof of enrollment, which is the letter of enrollment that UMass sent you, and also seed money. So I bring cash into the bank to create my bank account. I am not sure if they have like seed money online, but it's your best bet to carry like cash to the bank account so you can just transact like directly to your bank account. Okay. Yes, so now you have your bank set, bank account set, like what's the next steps? So it's just simple stuff. So first off, you should maintain your account by monitoring your transactions. It's worth checking like once in a while to see if you have like anything that you are not supposed to spend on. You can also set up payments like for bill paying for like Netflix and Spotify. You can also make it automatic through your bank accounts, and also savings. So just like back to emergency funds, if you just find it like to have like too much of a hassle, just like putting like cash into a jar, you can also set it at your bank. It will just save like $50 per month according to your preference into like an emergency fund. And also protect your account. So it's very important to safeguard your account. You can opt in for alerts and security protections. And please beware of money scam and identity theft. So international students is often like very vulnerable for identity theft. So please pay attention whenever you put your information online. Sometimes these can happen without you knowing it, and it's totally okay. Normally bank will have their security protection for these, but it's worth just being aware of these kind of scams. And also consider apply for a credit card, which will help you building your credit. And although it might be a little bit, not so intuitive talking about credit card as international students, it's worth checking out what they offer when you are like eligible for one. Okay, with that said, let me take the time here. Okay, so we actually we'll go through like super briefly about credit. If you have any questions so far, please put it in the chat or like speak up, because this is just gonna be a brief overview of credit. So credit, what is credit? So credit represents your trustworthiness to access and pay back loans on time. So that's it. That's about credit. So if you heard this term before, it might sound a little bit jargony, but it's just actually like how you are, like how you look in terms of like your ability to access and pay back loans on time. And so why should we care about credit? So credit can grant you access to private loans that can cover educational expenses. So go back to financial independence. If like your family is tight on a budget, maybe you don't want to like rely on them too much, but you also have educational expenses that you have to pay for. Building credit is like a very good step to guarantee your access to private loans, because normally international students, we're like super hard to access private loans because we don't have credit history. We like hard to find a co-signer, and we cannot stay long enough to actually pay back the loans. And so building credits is like a personal first step that you can make. And it's also allow convenient and affordable leasing. So many leasing agency, if you're like, considering off-campus housing, don't actually like consider your application if you don't have credit history. So it's very important to like if you want to stay off campus or like postgraduate, if you want to stay longer in the US, building credit can grant you that first consideration before you go into like the more money stuff. And also, yes, for instance, staying post undergraduate, so leasing, and also if you're like considering buying a car loans can be very expensive, and so having just like a very good credit score, which will go like right after this, will just ensure that your car loans or like anything that you're like borrowing will have a good interest rate or just allow the first access to actually have loans. And also, yes, again, we have a blog about credit building for international students. We won't go through into like how do you build your credit for this workshop, but you can always check out our blog to find out. Okay, so almost there, guys. This one is about credit scores. So credit scores is a three-digit score calculated by one of the three companies called credit bureaus. So the credit scores range from 300 to 850. You can see on the chart on your right-hand side, anything like the more green your credit score is, the better. So anything above 670 is considered a good credit score, which is the yellow bar, and everything above that is good. So again, good credit scores means like better access to loans and better interest rates. And if you're like just starting to think about credit score, it's like a little bit concerns because you actually have nothing on your hand, and that's okay because everyone credit starts with no credit, which is essentially 0 points. Yes, so again, this is like a simple visualization of like how much credits, like a good credit score can save you. So this is like a car loan, so $30,000 in the terms of 6 years. So you can see in the left-hand side, you have like 580 credit score, and like in the right-hand side, 720. So right-hand side is a good credit score, 580, not so much. And so you can already see in like the bottom a vast difference of like how much you have to pay. So it's like a 12,000 extra if you have a bad credit score. And so just like it saves you so much in terms of your interest, and also it's just so much more convenient if you have a good credit score. And it's actually not hard like building credit at all. Yes, so that's it for today workshop contents. For now, I'll just go briefly about the resources that you can access at UMass. So first off, we have the financial aid office. You come here for any concerns or questions about financial aid. So scholarships, grants, loans. I know international student is very limited, but it is always worth checking and asking them out about like what options you are eligible for. Next up is bursar's office. So you heard them every semester, they will contact you for your tuition, for your bill payments. But it can also a point of contact if you're considering like about your like aid options, like how to go about repaying your loans if you ever borrowing one. And yes, so Dean of Students Office, again, they are like excellent support for general concerns and emergency support. So micro grants and all the good stuff that students can always access, you can always go to the Dean of Students Office. Student legal services, so they offer free legal services for students. So if you have like an off-campus lease that you want them to look through, like international students, if you have any concerns about legal matters, come to them and they will offer free advice. And that's like an awesome service. And yeah, next up, academic advisor, you come to them for academic concerns. But if you're like dropping to half-time or you're like missing a semester, that can affect your financial aid. And so it's worth just like checking with them to see if like your decisions are very impactful to any of your aid options. And next stop is International Programs Office. So the IPO, you heard them every semester. They are the office that take care of the paperwork, your residency status. And also, if you have financial concerns, you can go to them, and then they will always be able to direct you to the right resources. And last but not least is Smart About Money, so us. So the workshop today that you attend is just like a brief overview. But if you have very like specific concerns, if you just like don't know where to start, if you just want to know more or like how to evolve, you can always like schedule an appointment with us through Navigate. And also you can like just email us and we'll answer your concerns if you